Here we are again for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports. Auburn also got a page on Facebook that I got to really get back going with. I had a lot of content on there a little while back, but I kind of fell off with the content there. Even tried a little Instagram stuff, but I really am partial to the content delivery on YouTube and Facebook. Go ahead and click the bell twice so that you don't miss any of the content here on Vernon Speak Sports Auburn, where we talk about Auburn football all of the time. As a matter of fact, I was going to take the night off, but I was like, nope. There's some stuff that we need to talk about in the Auburn world. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. So a couple of days ago, maybe, hell, I can't even remember. I think it might have been Sunday. What's the day? Monday? No, it was Saturday, actually, where I talked about the opt-out situation, which, I mean, players have the option. You know, there was one player that actually had caught the COVID. He's recovering from that. And Chandler Wooten on the linebacker core did decide to opt out. He's got a child on the way, and he doesn't want to put his family at risk. Totally understandable. And, you know, it's good that kids are analyzing their situations and doing what's best for the totality of their particular circumstance. But when we think about this, it's not a but, you know, when we think about it from a overall impactful standpoint as far as the team goes, this is not going to be an easy guy to replace for Auburn. Okay? Now, if we rewind back, 2019 Oregon game, even back in the spring, Auburn actually welcomed Owen Pappo, a 5-star recruit out of Grayson, Georgia, technically Loganville, Georgia, out in the eastern portion of Gwinnett County, where a lot of athletes in the country surface from. You got Derek Brown from Gwinnett County. Brad Lester actually is from Gwinnett County, Parkview High School. So Auburn has a pretty good little situation where they like to snag these guys out of Gwinnett County. So either way, got Owen Pappo from Grayson High School, very successful program high school-wise in the state of Georgia. And when you listen to interviews from Kevin Steele, Travis Williams, when Owen Pappo's name came up, it's almost like they paused as if, you know, hey, this guy's going to play. This guy's a good football player. He's basically turning heads to where I'm really not trying to talk about this in the interview. This guy's actually that good. He's going to play this year. He's going to push the envelope, maybe even for a starting position. Then we get into the Oregon game, and we're like, this man is right in the middle of the action. He's making key tackles early in the football game. And you talk about Chandler Wooten, who was supposed to be in the rotation on a high level. He was in there, but Owen Pappo was the starter. But however, Chandler Wooten was still a pretty good contributor. You're talking about 25 tackles, 1 interception, a fumble recovery. So he was very active in this particular defense. So he was part of the depth situation with this linebacker core. And I talk about this all the time. Depth is the name of the game. Depth is how quality depth is how you're going to win or compete for championships, whether it's the SEC West, the SEC Conference Championship game, or getting into the college football playoffs. And truth be told, let the chips fall as they may once you make it there. You got 4 great teams, and, you know, it is what it is. But you got to have quality depth to make it there. I mean, your first 11 can be good, and that's great. I think Auburn has always had a good first 11, but things tend to taper off as you go further down the depth chart. Now, they don't taper off as quickly as they used to, though, for the Tigers, which is why, even though, now that I really look at the totality of the circumstance, that 9-4 season really wasn't that bad. When you think about how things could have gone, you know, you talk about Auburn playing against, you know, more than 4 top 5 teams that went to New Year's 6 bowls, things of that nature, and for Auburn to have been legitimately in all of those particular football games with viable chances to win the football game says a lot about Auburn's recruiting. folks are a little mad about Gus Malzahn and his predictable play calling, and Bo Nix wasn't ready and all this other stuff. But when you really think about what Auburn had personnel-wise and what they were up against on a week-in and week-out basis, a 9-4 season actually turns out pretty good, because if you have a shaky offensive line, you have Boobie Whitlow, who is having to literally struggle for every inch of yards he got. DJ Williams actually came on after the Boobie Whitlow injury. Bo Nix continued to get confidence as the season went along, and you got a pretty good football team. I honestly think, although Auburn went 9-4, I think there were some higher opportunities there. I think they really should have went 10-2. I think let the Florida game get away from. I think Auburn was the better team in that one. I think the Georgia game was actually a little closer than the score would indicate. Georgia actually played a pretty good ball game against Auburn. Auburn had a very hard time moving the football. Georgia retreated out of that man coverage, went to a cover 2 kind of zone there late in the third quarter, giving Auburn some opportunities with the slant routes, and gave Gus Malzahn a few more options with play calling. And Georgia actually almost put themselves in a position to lose that game. But I think Georgia overall, roster-wise and talent-wise, just was the better team. I hate to admit it, but they just were. I think Georgia had one of the better rosters in college football. Experience wasn't necessarily there. But when I think about all the other games, Auburn had a legitimate shot at really dominating certain games. I even think about portions of the LSU game. If Auburn would have been at least sound on offense in that particular football game, I think Auburn, probably comes out of that game a 7-point, maybe 10-point winner over an LSU team. But Chandler Wooten is just a high-level contributor, won't be with the Tigers this year. And I just wanted to remind you guys as to how depth continues to play a role. I talk about these things all the time, and the more I thought about it, I was like, this Chandler Wooten thing is not something you can just brush under the rug. Auburn's defense is definitely in good shape to be very good this year, pretty solid at the defensive tackle, defensive line position. I think the front seven will be one among the best in the country. That's my time here, guys. We're going to talk a little bit more tomorrow. I'm thinking about, let me know if this is a good idea. I'm thinking about actually covering Mark Anthony Richards. I'm very intrigued about where he will be position-wise on Auburn's roster. Very talented kid, out with a leg injury last year. If we remember right, he was in the 2019 recruiting class. Auburn really, really banking on having him sign, and he did, among others who did. DJ Williams out of the state of Florida. Running back wise, that's my time here. Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football as we always do. Click the bell twice so that you do not miss any of the content. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.